John Edwards and Jim Powers for highschoolsportscaravan.com inside the High School Sports Caravan Week 1. And Jim, believe it or not, we're already football season.
Yeah, talking to Cliff Ice a few minutes ago, he was like, yeah, summer won't wait too fast. And it really did when you come to think about it. It was a great summer, a great year celebrating football from last year with CBC winning the state championship and other teams doing extremely well. But these guys have been going since the beginning of August. They've gone through their practices and their jamborees, and now it's time to turn the lights on Friday night, strap it up. Let's, get the regular season started.
Believe it or not, there were a lot of things that happened this offseason, really, that we didn't expect. Matt Irvin steps down at Kirkwood, and Sheldon Farrell steps in, and new coach over at Eureka.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of coaching changes late in the year this year. You don't normally see that many coaching changes, but when you see where everybody went and how it all shook out, you get Brian Simmons going to DeBerg, a DeBerg graduate. Eureka's head coach basically grew up in Eureka, grew up in the football program there and their family. Farrell Shelton, he moves over to Kirkwood and really doesn't, leave. He leaves everything alone and keeps their existing staff there. So, yeah, a lot of late changes in the springtime with head coaches. But I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to make for an exciting year of football in 2015.
We're here at Webster Groves High School, the High School Sports Caravan. This weekend we'll have Webster Groves and Francis Howell, teams that we saw at the beginning of last season as well. Two teams that really lost key components. First with Francis Howell, you lose Sutton Smith out there. Yeah. Back here in Webster Groves, you lose Cam Hilton. Two different football teams maybe this Friday night.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, the one thing for Webster Groves, I know they want to throw that second quarter out from last year. 3 pick sixes, and then it just snowballed from them on the road over at Francis Howell. But I think you're going to see a couple teams trying to find their way. How offensively, you lose a Sutton Smith, you're losing a lot. You're losing the premier running back in the metro area last year, and he did so much for that offense. You lose a quarterback, you lose a wide receiver. So they're going to have to figure a few things out, and we saw that on last Friday night at the Jamboree. Defensively, though, Howell's defense is as good as advertised. They've got 9 starters coming back. They are as legit as there is a defense that I've seen in quite some time. We've got to remember, too, that Howell defense last year only gave up an average of 10 points a game on their run to the state semifinal till they lost to Rockhurst in a game that they were literally 1 or 2 plays away from winning. Webster, when you got to replace a Cam Hilton, who was such a special player here in the metro area and for the Statesman program, you're asking a lot. But, Cliff Ice said, we'll have that interview up here on Thursday with Cliff Ice. The one thing he said was, hey, we got some young kids. They're hungry. They've got to step out, and they've got to, show that they belong in that position. So I really think we're going to see a very interesting game on Friday night here at Moss Field.
Returning player for Webster Groves will be John Thomas, who had a really explosive game against Francis Howell last year. Francis Howell defense keyed on Cam Hilton quite a bit, and John Thomas was a player that was able to get himself wide open. Talk about the state poll a little bit, Jim, that just recently came out. Class 6 preseason top vote getter was CBC. Any shock there?
And talking to a lot of people, I don't think there is shock because typically in polls you get the team that was the state champion last year. If they're showing resemblance of what they were like, they're going to be the number 1 team preseason. And offensively, CBC is, once again, they're as advertised. Blake Charlton at quarterback, Trey Bryant at running back. You got Anderson out on the edge. You got a good offensive line. They're going to put points up on the board. I think the thing that a lot of people are going to see defensively is you lose 3 guys up front, you lose a couple people in the back. They're going to need to find their way, and we kind of saw that a little bit on Friday at the Jamboree. Once they start to gel and they start figuring some things out, they're going to be very, very good. But their schedule's not going to do them any favors. They've got some big matchups early. And then the MCC, I think everybody's starting to inch a little bit towards CBC. So I think CBC is the number 1, is right there. Howell at the 3 spot. Kirkwood in the mix in the top 5. I think everybody's shaking out right there. Hazelwood Central in there as well. I really think that the pollsters, myself included, got it right when it comes to how the state rankings shook out in Class 6.
CBC will be depending heavily on Trey Bryan, who's a K-State commit. Blake Charlton last year was a player that really just needed to hand the ball off. Do you think that offense is going to change a little bit? Do you think maybe he'll throw the football a little bit more for them?
I think they may need to switch it around a little bit and be a little bit more versatile. I think Blake Charlton showed that he can throw the ball. And we saw him throw it a little bit on Friday night. I don't know if Coach Scott Pingle was showing his hand a little bit, but I really think that they are going to try and air it out a little, especially with Anderson out with their receivers, out on the edge. They've got some guys that can jump and get the ball. So I really like what they're going to bring to the table offensively. Once again, I think the catch-22 there is going to be their defense.
Talk about some of the other area teams in the top 10, especially in Class 6, and then we'll move down the rest of the ranks.
You got St. Louis U High talking to Gary Kornfeld, and that interview is up on the website. Really excited about his skill players. They come off that big upset over Kirkwood at Kirkwood in Week 9 last year. Isom with just a monster game. Quarterback coming back. Wide receiver coming back. Some kids on the offensive line. Some youngsters that got to get it quick because they're going to play a good Hillsborough team on Friday night. But I really think that the Junior Bills are on the cusp of having a very special year. 7-3 last year. Got knocked out in that 4-5 matchup in the district. I think, that's kind of been the mantra for them is they know that they can make a deep run into the playoffs. But I think, the outside looking in, you got Eureka and Lafayette. They're going to match up on Friday night. They were 11-12 in the poll this week. Somebody's going to fall out of the votes, and somebody maybe will move up. Who knows?
We'll have Lafayette next Friday night as they take on Hazelwood Central. That'll be our game of the week next Friday night. We'll go down to Class 5, talk about some of the teams in Class 5 from the area that made it into the top 10 preseason poll.
Zumwalt North, obviously, after their great year last year, great quarterback play, great running wide receivers. They air it out. The one thing that they're going to need is they're just going to need that consistency factor towards the end of the year in not making mistakes, and that's what happened in the playoff game last year. They made some big mistakes, and they just weren't able to recuperate from them. I think they can make a very good run. Ladue, really impressed with them. Mike Tarpey's done a nice job. They've got a good quarterback coming back that's replacing Jack Fox from last year. You've also got a very, very talented McClure North team who made a believer out of me on Friday night, and Henry Ballard is just a beast. He can get up in the air and go after footballs and just do some really, really cool things. But I'm going to tell you, don't count Webster Groves out of the mix. They got votes in the top 10 poll, and for Webster not to be in the preseason top 10, haven't seen that in an awfully long time, and I'm sure that's going to be some bulletin board mantra for the guys here in the locker room because they know that they should be in that top 10. And I really think that Webster could be that sleeper team once again if they can fill those couple holes.
Talk about other teams in the area. Let's talk a little bit about Afton. You just had a chance to go over and visit with them. Talk a little bit about their team. That's a team that had 10-plus wins last year, and talk about what they lost, what they bring back.
They bring back, Jordan Siegel back. He's such a dynamic player. They've got their quarterback and Burgess back. They've got offensive linemen coming back. I mean, they're bringing the house back, and they are going to be as talented as last year, if not even more talented. And like Dan told me a little bit ago, we got kids that got playing time last year because we had big leads, and now they know what to expect. And it was a very junior-laden class last year, seniors this year. I expect Afton to continue their dominance in the district, to make a deep run. But once again, you're in Class 4. I hate to say it. It's Webb City's world, and everybody else just lives in it. But, Afton is going to be good. Westminster is going to be very good. New quarterback that they're going to be unveiling. A little bit more of a versatile quarterback than Boger was last year. And Boger, I really believe, honestly, he was one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the metro area last year, just a phenomenal athlete. But this young man that's going to be stepping in for Westminster, he can bring some different things to the table. So it'll be interesting to see how Westminster is going to go after things. And then down in Class 3, John, you talk a lot about John Burroughs and what they're going to bring to the table. Obviously, you lose a great running back in John Moulton. You got to fill in the blanks a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how Burroughs kind of shakes out. They've got an interesting matchup against Cardinal Ritter on Friday night at Cardinal Ritter, who is just on the outside looking in down in the Class 2 poll. But then you look at probably the biggest surprise, it was Bishop DeBerg being in the top 10 in Class 3. Really impressed with what they did last year. Won their first ever playoff games, and I believe, and I'm going to have to double check this, the first time they've ever been ranked in a state poll in the preseason. So Brian Simmons inherited a very good program, 16 seniors coming back, a lot of beef on the front line. They're averaging 265, 270 on the front. Got their quarterback coming back, the running back coming back, wide receiver coming back. Brian Simmons bringing that air-it-out offense. Watch for some really, really special things down in South City out of Bishop DeBerg. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Unbelievable that we start football on Friday. Saturday night, or for Saturday though, the High School Sports Caravan will have some soccer action where we'll be over at St. Louis University High, where we see Chaminade and SLU High get it on, and those two teams battled last year in the state championships.
You know what? Just might as well start the season off with a bang on the soccer pitch. Put these two MCC rivals together. Game 1, week 1. And it's just going to be a lot of fun over at SLU High. It's going to be a great crowd. It's going to be a great day for soccer as well. Two very, very talented programs, two traditional powers here in the St. Louis area. And it's just going to be so much fun to watch on the soccer pitch on Saturday. John and myself will be there, and we're going to have a lot of fun as we kick off our soccer coverage. We're going to have a lot of soccer for you here in the fall. We're going to mix in some volleyball here and there, and we've got a great football schedule. So it's an exciting time, man.
For complete top 10 preseason polls for football and our scheduling, go to highschoolsportscaravan.com. Like us also on Facebook. For Jim Powers, John Edwards. We'll see you Friday night here at Webster Groves High School. Thanks for watching. Tune in to highschoolsportscaravan.com.